Phil, thanks for joining us in what is a time of uncertainty and
Thanks,
chaos.
Happy. Yeah, happy to.
This is, just for people who are watching, this is about 24 hours after ScoMo has said no public gatherings after 100. So we're all working this out together, but I wanted to get Phil on to hear a little bit about where they've landed. Can you just describe quickly for us, for people who may not know or be aware of your situation, where you're leading church?
Yes, so St George North, southern inner south of Sydney, St George area of Sydney. Our church is a little bit different to most in that we've got 6 congregations that meet on 3 different locations at different times right across Sundays. Some of them well over 100 adults and children, some of them well under 100 adults and children, but we're obviously not having any services on Sunday. We're not keeping the small ones open and the big ones not, all that sort of idea. Yeah.
So for you, what's, apart from the government saying nothing over 100, so that kind of restricting it, even for the ones under 100, what has been your thinking into closing them?
Yeah, well, we had decided that we would, if we shut down everything, mainly because we don't want to suggest that that somehow the churches under 100 want to be under 100, to be very frank. And you know, if I went and preached up at the church that normally has 50 people, well, what would then stop all the people from the other ones going anyway? It just seemed to me, if you shut down, you shut down. If you don't, you don't. But obviously, being a part of the Diocese of Sydney, the Archbishop Glenn Davies has actually called for all services to stop on Sunday. So that, in a way, made it easier for us. We didn't then have to explain that difference to people.
And where have you landed at the moment? Based on, are you moving towards live streaming? How have you thought through this through your theological grid and where you landed?
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah. We've decided not to live stream, somewhat on theological grounds, but some on practical grounds. I'm not convinced what live stream achieves versus sending out a video, compared to what it potentially wrongly teaches about church. I'm really sceptical of the idea that live stream is any better than a video of me preaching, say. But a video of me preaching, no one thinks that's replacing church. A live stream is not church, and so that's why we've gone the way we have. So we've decided we're going to send out a video and a suite of materials to people on Sunday, and so it'll be a video with an introduction from me talking about ways to do church at home and encouraging people to either meet with their family or with a small group of other brothers and sisters. We're then going to have the Bible readings on that video for people. We then have me preaching, and we've decided that it will just be me, whereas normally there might be 2 or 3 preachers across our 6 congregations on Sunday. No, it was just one package for all our congregations. Then part of that package will have a little bit of a kids thing, where we're going to video a little bit of a kids spot and send out a page of activities for kids. So we're saying to parents, your kids might want to sit and listen to the sermon with you, but perhaps what you might do is do the kids' activities as church and then listen to the sermon at another time. You can work that out as a family. And then the last thing we're sending out is a PDF of some suggested prayers for the day. So we're doing very much, and we're not calling it. We're not suggesting we're doing church together. We're saying to people, hey, still do some things on the Lord's Day, do some church together, find a way to do that. Here's the materials to do that, rather than pretending everyone's meeting when they're not. Yeah.
So was that you were nervous about people building a picture in their head of these next few months when we're not meeting of what church looks like, or is it the transition at the other end of people coming back out of that and thinking, well, we were doing church before and we enjoyed that more? What was the driver?
Well, a small part of it is that at the end that I think there is a danger in this period that people become more consumer in their mentality towards church, and if there's a part of me that wants to say, hey, do it well, but don't do it too well at this time. So there's that argument. But part of it is just that theological point. I think it's, if you pretend you're running a service in a building and that people not in the building are a part of that by just watching it online, I don't want to suggest to people that's what church is at any point. So I want to say this isn't church. This is a best we can do at the moment in this circumstance, but let's long for the day in 3 months, 6 months, whenever it is, when we can get back together in person. Yeah, that's my thinking.
How does your decision about Sunday and the video of you being sent out and the other aspects of that fit with small groups during the week? Is it replacing it?
I think this is a work in progress for us, and so what I say now may be different on Monday. But I've been adamant that we call them gospel teams, our gospel teams to keep meeting, and some have kicked back a little against that. Other groups have just been meeting and going, what's the problem? Sometimes we've been educating people that there's this thing called the coronavirus when they turn up to their gospel team. We want to, I think fellowship is physical. And there is something important about that, and about being together as long as it is possible. So we're trying on this one to do a bit of a catch-all. We're encouraging people, keep meeting together. Since yesterday, we're trying to say to our gospel team leaders, do that in a way that enables appropriate distancing to happen. So some groups might break into 2 different groups for this time, so it's only 5 or 6 rather than 12, that sort of idea. Especially because some of our groups, praise God, in the start of the year had grown to 15 or 16, so it makes it very hard to meet in the lounge room. So things like that. But at the same time, we're saying to gospel team leaders, recognise some people can't or won't come or shouldn't, older people, people with immuno issues, that sort of thing. And so keep being creative about other ways for them potentially to be a part of the group time, like having a half-hour part where you talk about the Bible passage in a focused way rather than a meandering normal sort of night, that sort of thing, and get them just to Skype or Zoom in for that part. We're talking about those sort of things, but then our big stress is to the gospel team leaders is to really take their pastoral responsibilities extra seriously for this period. So we've always got a strong suggestion for gospel team leaders to have a general rule that if you don't see a person at church or gospel team 2 in a row, one on, say, Wednesday night, one on Sunday, or then Sunday and Wednesday night, that you should ring them and touch base with them. We're saying turn that general encouragement into your standard practice. This is the time to do that so that people are connected and so forth. So we want to keep doing gospel teams while we can, but recognise it's going to be different. That's what we're trying to work through. Yeah,
good. One of the challenges people are finding in this transition period is, in smaller churches, but any size churches, there's a huge amount to do in a very short period of time. Decisions need to be made quickly. But as you thought about your role and your leadership at this period, what would you put your finger on? What is your primary role at this point for the church and for God's people?
Yeah. I've been challenged on this myself because I think I couldn't count the hours meeting with our staff team, emailing people, chatting to our wardens, sending messages to wardens and parish council and so forth. And on that, a little like an emergency cabinet, to be very truthful, we've overreached on the staff team and just by necessity not included the lay leadership as much as we could, and just been much more directive than we would normally want to be. But I just think that's because things are moving so quickly. In terms of your question and my thing, I just need to keep reminding myself my most important job is always to pray and preach the gospel. So on that's why while the staff team's been working overtime on this, every communication we're sending out, we're trying to include biblical content in that. The first of our video sermons on Sunday is me going to be talking about anxiety in the face of the virus. I'm going to preach on Philippians 4. We had a bit of a joke. We were due to preach on the commandment, do not murder, but didn't think that would be that helpful for this Sunday on the first of it. So we've adjusted that for the moment. We'll go back to our normal series next week, but just recognising people need to hear the gospel. And I think people need to hear teaching about what an opportunity this is, because I am convinced that churches are going to lose fringe people at this time, people who perhaps have been coming for a while but have not been grabbed by the gospel. We are going to lose some people. We've got to fight to not do that and work overtime, but we will. But I think we're going to see lots of other people wanting to hear. And actually, these online churches are going to be a great evangelistic opportunity. So already, I'm aware of 2 or 3 non-Christian people loosely connected to people at our church who said, can I get that link to the sermon on Sunday? I'd love to hear Phil talking about anxiety and the virus. Whether they love the answers I give or not is another matter, but yeah.
Well, let me just lastly pick up on that, because we at some level we don't want to be opportunistic, but you're right, there is an opportunity, a significant opportunity we have for the gospel at this unique point in the country. What are you seeing as the opportunities for St George North?
Yeah. The opportunity is that it is actually an easier, very practical opportunity. So it's an easier invite to invite someone to listen to a video at some time in their own home than it is to come to church, I think. And so I'm going to be encouraging people at St George North to not think because church is closed on Sundays that that the opportunity to share, to invite someone to hear the message is closed. That's one thing. But then part of my message on Sunday, I'm going to be encouraging people, this is our opportunity to shine like stars, to be salt, to be a light, all those things. Not even not intentionally, but just by being different to our world around us. And so as we are not anxious because we are praying, that will make us different. And people say, what's the reason for your hope in the 1 Peter sense? As we are the people who go knock on our neighbour's door and say, do you know what, I was a bit silly and I bought too many toilet rolls, but have you got enough? I mean, it's a silly example, but it makes a point.
Absolutely.
What an opportunity to actually model what repentance and then grace looks like. Those sort of things. I think what a chance. These things are God-given. We're praying that it goes away and we're praying that people are not impacted, but that's in God's hands. And I think what an opportunity then for Christians to be distinct and different. Yeah.